Illustrated Treasury of the Brothers Grimm. The Frog Prince. Long ago, there lived a king who had 3 daughters. The young women were all lovely, and many princes came to seek their hands in marriage. But everyone agreed that the youngest princess was loveliest of all. Near the royal family's castle, there was a shady wood. In summer, the youngest princess liked nothing better than to walk through the wood to the well. There she would stay, playing with the golden ball she often carried, admiring it in the dappled light. One hot day, the princess was doing just what when her ball suddenly slipped through her fingers. It hit the ground and bounced up over the edge of the well, dropping into the water with a splash. The princess peered down inside the well, but she couldn't see nothing but darkness. She sank down onto the mossy ground and started to cry. "Don't upset yourself," said the croaky voice. "I can get your ball back." The princess looked up, startled. There was no one around except for a plump frog squatting on the edge of the well. "Really?" she gasped, frightening. "Yes, of course," ventured the frog. "But what will you give me if I do?" "Oh, anything," gushed the delighted girl. "My silver shoes, my golden purse, even my diamond tiara." "No, no," gulped the frog. "What would I do with those? Just promise that we will be best friends." His bulging eyes grew soft. "I want to be with you all day, every day. I want to eat with you off your golden plate, and sleep in your comfy bed. What fun we will have together." "Yes, yes," agreed the princess hurriedly, for she was longing to get her precious possession back. "I promise you can have all that if you bring me my golden bowl." The frog's wide mouth smiled even wider, and he plopped gleefully into the well. After only a minute or two, he reappeared holding the golden ball. The princess was thrilled. She scooped it up and raced away back through the wood. "Wait, wait," called the frog, leaping after her. "Pick me up. I cannot go as fast as you." But in her joy, the king's daughter had forgotten all about her helper. She dashed on home to the castle, and the poor frog was left far behind. That evening, when the princess and the king were eating dinner, there came a noise of something flopping wetly up the castle's staircase. Splish, splash, splish, splash. Then there was knocking at the door of the great hall, and a voice cried, "Youngest princess, please let me in." Curious, the princess went to see who it could be. But when she opened the door and saw the frog sitting there, she slammed it shut at once. Horrified, she sat back down without saying a word. The king noticed that his daughter was trembling and asked, "Whatever has frightened you? Has a giant come to carry you away?" And he chuckled fondly, but the princess grew pale. "It's no giant," she said in a very small voice. "It's a horrid frog," and she explained what had happened the day before. Then the knocking began again, and the frog's voice said, "Youngest princess, let me in. I want what you promised me." The king looked grave. "You made a promise and you must keep it," he said firmly. The youngest princess slowly took a deep breath and went to let the frog in. The frog hopped at her heels back to her chair. "Lift me up so I can sit with you," he croaked. The princess turned away in disgust, but the king insisted that she do as the frog had asked. Once the frog was on the table next to the princess, he said, "Now push those golden plates a little nearer so that we may eat together." And the princess had to obey. When the frog's tummy was full, he gave a yawn. Delicious, he said, but now I'm tired. Let's go to bed. Then the princess hung her head and began to weep. But the king gave her a stern look, so she picked up the slimy creature with just her finger and thumb and held him out away from her. She carried him upstairs to her bedroom and dropped him in a corner, before quickly jumping into bed and drawing the covers over her head. Then the frog came hopping up to her bedside, croaking, "Let me snuggle in too, or I will tell your father." The princess groaned. She threw back the coverlet and let the frog leap onto the mattress alongside her. But at the touch of his cold, damp skin, she grew angry. "That's enough," she yelled, and she seized the frog and tossed him away. As he fell, something very strange happened. The frog began to blur and change and grow, and then, to the princess's astonishment, a handsome prince, with the kindest face she had ever seen, was suddenly standing in front of her. The prince smiled and gently explained how a wicked witch had enchanted him, but the princess was the only one who could save him, and by carrying out her promise, she had broken the spell. The prince knelt before the princess in thanks, and as they gazed into each other's eyes, they fell deeply in love. Of course, the king was delighted and gave him permission for the joyful couple to get married. And it wasn't long before they set off to the prince's kingdom in a golden carriage drawn by 8 white horses, with crowds of well-wishers cheering them along the way. This is the second story. The Fisherman and His Wife. Once upon a time, there was a poor fisherman who lived with his wife in a shack by the sea. Every morning, the fisherman went out fishing, and every evening he returned with only 1 or 2 little fish, just enough food to keep them from starving. One day, the fisherman was astonished to pull up his line and see a huge flounder dangling from it. "Hey, fisherman," the big fish said, "I beg you let me leave. I'm not really a flounder. I'm an enchanted prince. Please let me go." "Of course," agreed the fisherman. He put the flounder back into the water so it could swim away, and he hurried home. "Have you caught nothing at all today?" grumbled his wife. "Not exactly," said the man. "I caught a talking flounder who said he was an enchanted prince. Can you believe he asked me to let him go, so of course I did." "Didn't you wish for anything first?" moaned the woman. "No," said the man. "It didn't cross my mind. What could I have wished for?" "Well, look around," sighed the woman. "It's awful to live in the shack. You might have wished for a small cottage. Go and find the flounder and ask him." The man didn't feel comfortable about it, but his wife moaned and moaned until at last he gave in and went back to the sea. The water was no longer clear but gray and choppy as he called out, "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come, I beg you, here to come." Then the flounder came swimming up to him and said, "Well, what do you want?" "It's not me," said the man. "It's my wife. She does not want to live in a shack any longer. She would like a cottage." "Go then," said the flounder. "She has already." When the man went home, his wife was no longer in the shack, but in a little cottage. There was a porch and pretty rooms filled with lovely furniture. Behind the cottage was a garden with hens and flowers and fruit. "Look," said the wife, "isn't this nice?" The couple lived happily for about a fortnight, until the woman announced, "Listen, husband, I want to live in a castle. Go to the flounder and ask for one." And she moaned and moaned until at last the fisherman went back to the sea. The sky was heavy and the waves were churning as the fisherman called out, "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come, I beg you, here to come." Then the flounder appeared out of the surf and said, "Well, what does your wife want now?" "Alas," said the fisherman, feeling rather scared, "she wants to live in a castle." "Go then, she has it," said the flounder. Then the man went home, but instead of the cottage he found a massive stone castle. There was a great hall with servants. There were beautiful walls hanging and thick carpet. A crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling over a huge stone table laid with fine food and wine. Behind the castle there was a courtyard with stable and horses, and a magnificent park beyond. "Look at it all," said his wife. "Isn't it beautiful?" And they enjoyed a feast and went to bed. Next morning the wife prodded her husband awake and said, "Get up. I want to be king over all the land. Go to the flounder and ask him." And she moaned and moaned until at last the man went back to the sea, muttering, "It is not right all the way." When he came to the sea, the sky was pitch black. A strong wind whipped an enormous wave as the fisherman called, "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come, I beg you, here to me." The flounder heard him and came to the shore and said, "Well, what does your wife want this time?" "Alas," said the fisherman, "she wants to be king now." "Go then," replied the flounder, "she is king already." When the fisherman came to where the castle had been, he saw a gleaming palace. Ranks of soldiers stood outside, and as he approached it, they threw open the enormous doors. There were splendid courtiers in a magnificent hall, and his wife was sitting huge silver throne, wearing a golden crown on her head. "Husband," the fisherman's wife announced, "I know I am now the king and can rule over people, but I want to be able to order the moon to rise and the sun to set. I want to be God." "No," said the exasperated fisherman, "I cannot ask that of the fish." His wife grew very angry. "What?" she cried. "I am the king, and you are nothing but my husband. I order you to go and ask this instead." Then the fisherman was afraid, but he had to go. A great storm raged as he stood by the sea and called, "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come, I beg you, here to me." Then the flounder rose from the crashing waves and said, "Well, what can your wife want for now?" "Alas," whispered the fisherman, quaking, "she wants to be God." "Go then," said the flounder, "and you will find her back again in the shack." And there they are both still living to this very day. Thank you for watching my video for all.